everybody. Before we jump into today's episode, we have two sponsors we want to say thank you to for supporting this show. The first one is Routine. You guys have heard me talk about Routine, honestly, back from the early days of the podcast, and it's still a product I use every single morning. They have a prompt for me here. I'm going to do a little impromptu on this ad read today because honestly, this is a product that I truly believe in. And so I'm just going to tell you guys exactly what I think and why. First and foremost, this is a stat that they shared, but when you sleep, you lose between a pound and a half of water. And most of that's just sweating while you sleep. I used to not know if that was actually true, to be honest. I felt like a pound to a pound and a half of water seemed like quite a bit while I slept. But the one thing I did constantly pay attention to when I started using Routine was just the fact that before using Routine, I always felt a little dehydrated in the morning. And I'm one of those people that when I get up really early usually. I work out. One of the first things I do is some form of fitness. It's just like what I do before everyone's awake. And so it's very easy for me to grab a coffee, pre-workout, an energy drink, something with caffeine in it, and just go. When I am good about using Routine, first, I basically they come in these little single serve packets. They contain half an organic lemon, a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, Himalayan sea salt, all 6 essential electrolytes, and they have no sugar in them at all. A lot of hydration products are going to have sugar. So one of the things about Routine that I love is that there's no sugar in there. So when I am good about doing this consistently, I will take one of those single serve packets, I'll throw it in my mixer bottle, and whether I also put in a pre-workout or something with caffeine or I just drink that separately, I try to drink that first. And the days I do that, I do genuinely feel hydrated and just have a different form of clarity all morning. A lot of people have tried to make their own homemade versions of Routine, right? You see people they take a shot of the apple cider vinegar, they put a little sea salt, a little lemon in a drink. This is essentially that, but in a product that you can take with you on the go, have it ready for you first thing in the morning. I know me personally, when I'm groggy rolling out of bed, the last thing I want to do is, squeeze a lemon, cut lemons up, go get the apple cider vinegar, find my sea salt. I just rip this packet open, throw it in my water, drink it, and it's good to go. You can try yours today. If you haven't tried it yet and you've been listening to this podcast for years, just try the damn Routine. Give it a shot. You can use code ShaneWhite30 and get 30% off your first order. So you get 30% off by using code ShaneWhite30 and go to yourroutine.com. To make it even easier, I've added the link to yourroutine.com in the show notes. So just click on the show notes for this episode, click on the link to yourroutine.com, and don't forget to use code ShaneWhite30. All right, guys, today's episode is also brought to you by NeuroRoast. Again, I'm going to go a little off script here. NeuroRoast is a product that I also came across during this year of 2023. They are a coffee company that's helping you optimize your brain function and overall well-being. This is another product that, to be honest with you, when I first started working with it, I was a little on the fence. I was like, do I really want to have mushrooms in my coffee? Well, folks, I will tell you, when I use NeuroRoast, one of the things that has stood out to me the most is I'll back up. People that know me know that I have way too much caffeine, typically. One of the things this year I've done a good job of is cutting out alcohol. Not completely, but predominantly, I don't touch a lot of alcohol anymore. What I think I've actually done the other way, though, is add a lot more caffeine. So I do definitely drink too much caffeine. That's something I need to work on next year, is to try to minimize how much of that. But NeuroRoast is something that has actually helped me because of the way they've formulated their coffee. Like, unlike regular coffee, which is, still something I consume, but NeuroRoast specifically doesn't cause jitters or crashes. Mushroom coffee provides more balance and sustained energy, allowing you to stay focused and productive throughout the day. So the times I do use NeuroRoast, I'll be honest, I just don't feel that jittery, like, I'm jumping out of my chair or standing here at my desk jumping around feeling. So give NeuroRoast a try. They have some really good flavors. I'll be honest too, the two guys that started NeuroRoast are just really good dudes based out of New York, and they're hustling, and hopefully they can get some people to try NeuroRoast this holiday season by listening to this podcast. So for you folks who've been on the fence, I'm telling you, it tastes delicious. They've done a fantastic job of making this coffee not only be functional, but taste fantastic. And if you want to try NeuroRoast, you can use code ShaneWhite. So it's super simple, just ShaneWhite at checkout. you'll also get 30% off. So if you go to neuroroast.com, and once again, I have added that to the show notes. So just click into the show notes while you're listening to this episode. You can click on NeuroRoast link directly. Don't forget to use code just Shane White, and you'll get 30% off your order. Hope you guys love both these products. I'm trying to not only bring you guys products that I use, but that I believe in on the podcast. I'm not taking ad reads for any brands that I don't really believe in. So anyway, hope you guys love both those products, yourroutine.com and neuroroast.com. I've added those links to the show notes. I hope you guys love it. And I got an awesome guest coming up right after this. All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Shane White Show. I'm pumped today to have Tommy Riggs on the show. Tommy, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. This is one of those classic. I told you this before we hit, or not today, but I've told you previously when we reconnected that I saw your brand, thought it was very unique, really cool. Messaged you on LinkedIn, and then I'm one of the worst when it comes to like I see something exciting, I get pumped on LinkedIn, and then I'm bad at going back to LinkedIn and having the conversation. So
that's the name of the game.
Thanks for your patience. Yeah. So everyone that doesn't know who you are, Tommy, would you mind giving everyone that's listening just a little bit of a background into you and the brand?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Tommy Riggs. I'm from Scottsdale originally. Went to USC. Started my career in tech sales. Kind of always worked with some startups, and that led me into the venture capital route. Worked with a venture capital studio in LA called Science Inc., predominantly known for kind of one of the pioneers of the venture capital studio model. They've built or invested or co-founded many household name brands now, like Dollar Shave Club, Pray.com, Liquid Death, many others. Co-founded Final Boss Sour with the studio at Science, and shout out James Hicks, my co-founder.
Shout out.
And yeah, we launched about a year ago. The reception's been phenomenal, and I'm excited to talk more about it today.
Very cool. I always find it really interesting, Tommy, when someone, I call it fresh out of school, gets to go work in venture or the investment side, and they get to see the inner workings of what it takes to get investment behind some of these big brands. And then they have the concept or the idea, like they want to go build something. I always find that to be a really cool story. There's not that many of them, honestly. There's definitely enough to name off a few, but explain to everyone, I would love to even go back to the beginning. Like you start working in venture capital. Why did you want to work in venture capital? What led you to even go to Science in the first place?
Science specifically was kind of a dream situation because you have more of an operating role and kind of the traditional VC side of things. So it was really fun, kind of rolling your sleeves up and working and helping these, our portfolio companies grow and actually operate as a co-founder essentially of many of them. Another really cool part about my role specifically was meeting other founders, right? In the last year, I've met anywhere from 200 to 250 founders in various industries, various stages, ranging from, ideas to Series B, Series C level companies. And, a lot of those conversations, you learn a lot about what doesn't work, what not to do, which is probably the most insightful part of it all. And, that's been really useful kind of intel to take with me. And the studio has, been developing this sense of, knowledge, I guess, of a lot of what works, what doesn't work over the last decade or so. And we try to take those learnings and repeat them when we build, brands like Final Boss Sour.
No, I love that. And what's interesting when I meet anyone that gets to have a taste of venture capital, I just read this book called The Checklist Manifesto. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
No.
But it's all about how every industry, there's a group of people who eventually use checklists. Like it starts with pilots. Everyone knows like pilots have checklists that they all use before they take off. And then it builds into the medical industry and how like now surgeries and a lot of those, you'd be shocked at how many have like these super basic checklists that there's basic things that you'd forget. When you join venture capital, I think it's one area where like, you hit on it. Like you've met hundreds of founders. They all have different stories. They're selling different things. Their P&Ls look different. There's different challenges they're facing. There had to have been, even in your time there, was there like a recipe, a formula that, most of either the firm you worked at or firms that you know of, there's got to be a few really key important things. Like I'm sure there's a million important, metrics or whatever it may be. What can you share with anybody? What are some like the really, really key things you've learned while you were there that like, hey, you have to have this for us to even consider you?
Yeah, I mean, so generally speaking, we, as our fund, we invest in early stage consumer. That's generally the case. What the commonalities surround usually are, typically we like to invest in, teams that have a founder that's, finance operations based and someone who's more product growth, creative marketing side. We found like at least a two founder team works better. It's not always the case. That's part of one of the checklists there. We really just want brands that are, loud and like really loud on social. They understand, what will go viral. Digital first, I think, is another area that we like to focus on. Certain categories suggest certain ways, but for the most part, digital, high repeat product category, loud on social, created a content machine, those types of things.
Got it. Okay. The pivot to social media has been a huge one. Like it's been going on for a long time, but the one that I have gotten to know since I started the podcast in 2020 is Midday Squares. I always follow. I'm sure you've obviously seen all their stuff.
Jake. I know one of the
Yeah. Okay. So I've had Jake on here a couple times. He's a great guy. But I remember when he started becoming really loud. It was one of those things where I called that out. I said, it's going to be mind blowing to me if in 5 years that's not what most brands are trying to pull off. Like just the attention that he's driving. That makes sense. That makes a ton of sense. Was there anything while you were there that was a big surprise? I'm sure, like you said, you learned a ton while you were there, but did you walk away from there feeling like there's a few things that you were surprised that you learned, or maybe you had no idea about the industry that now you feel like is a big piece of what you're doing with Final Boss Sour?
It's like, yeah, I think so. I think one of the main things is like so many people are doing almost the same thing, right? Like if you're doing a bar, for example, there's a million energy bars, a million protein bars. It's really hard to differentiate. It's finding like a sleepy category. And, when you talk to, like, for example, Walmart would talk to us and they'd be like, this shelf space, this category, as we're walking through the aisles with some execs from there, they're like, this is my least favorite vendor in here, right? Like this is the least favorite space, like, legacy brand, no innovation. Like, please put something on this shelf that, will bring people into this aisle. Like those are the types of things that we think about when we build brands, and what we did think about when we built Final Boss, right? We found a boring space, which we'll dive into some more, with a product that really hasn't happened yet. Like people have done iterations of it, but we kind of are the only ones doing exactly what we're doing, with various levels, the true form factor of the fruit and nothing else added. So happy to dive in some more on that.
For sure. Yeah. Nice job teeing that up. That was great. So one piece before we jump deep into Final Boss Sour, Tommy, I wanted to hit on and ask you about. Part of this podcast, I always love to go like the 0 to 1 story. And for you, you've laid the foundation to what I'm about to ask, which is, you got into venture capital, you got to be around founders and see what it takes to get funding from a firm like the one you worked at. There's a big leap, I've always believed, from being in those shoes to then having an idea. That's a huge leap. A lot of people have ideas. But then, Tommy, for you to have that idea and actually go execute on it, but not only execute on it, but leave what you were doing, like that whole path, there's so many people that want to do that never do, transparently. If you think back to when you decided to go all in on Final Boss Sour, do you remember those first few conversations you've had with your co-founder, just people around you that are close to you? Like, do you remember kind of the beginning of like, hey, I think this is something I could jump to full time and leave and go start on my own?
Yeah. I mean, for us, we started with product. Right. We found a lot of people start with brand and then they make product or start with, certain things. We started with product. And when we tried the product, we were laughing so hard at each other, making the sour faces, challenging each other to, work our way up, make it more sour, make it, different types of fruits. And that sort of led us to, make the brand and then eventually the name. But yes, looking back, I think that was like the aha moment we had where we were like, okay, something is here. Like people are now that we're having tried the product are like showing other people it, challenging them to try. And that's when we realized we could have this sort of, viral component to this.
Okay. Yeah. Love that. And so was it a sales figure that you hit early on, or was it just really that? Was it like, hey, I think we have something here that can go viral that people are going to love and gravitate to? And was that enough for you to make the leap? Because making that leap, like I said, from having this nice stable job, like you went and got a degree, you're working at a venture firm like that, that career trajectory, you probably make a lot of money, very maybe stable, maybe not, but like very like kind of clear path on where you're going. And then to leave and try to be one of those founders that gets the funding is a big jump. Was there anything else that jumped off to you that you were just like, I have to go do this?
Yeah, I think we were kind of pissed off that it didn't exist already in the market. And like,
Okay.
kind of funny background, like I didn't grow up eating sour candy at all. I wasn't a big
Oh, really?
sweets
I
person.
figured that was a huge piece of this. No.
No, my co-founder loves sour candy. And like I hated what existed already. Like I was not into Sour Patch Kids or like Trolley or any of that. And for me, like we kind of made this product for us. Like we made it so that
That's really cool.
it was like an organic form factor for us that resonated and we didn't feel guilty eating, and it was fun, right? It was having the levels of sourness so that, it's for the extreme sour heads, the people that are working their way there, and then it's also for people that kind of like the rookies, we call them.
Okay. Yeah.
And no one was doing that. And when we realized no one has levels of sour, it led us to gamify the brand.
Okay.
Which led us to think, okay, who do we want to help, come up with the assets for the brand, the logo, everything. We hadn't even picked a name yet. And that led us to, working with a video game design company. We basically told them, build us a video game that doesn't play, like that we can't play yet. And hopefully we'll get there one day. But that led us to build, the characters and the obstacles, the settings, which we deliver and then package into, a box like this.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah. Very high quality packaging. And by the way, I know you sent me some. I haven't gotten it yet because I wanted to taste test it live on here, but it hasn't gotten here yet. So unless it comes while we're on the show, I will, if that happens, which is possible, actually. This is when they come. So, okay, I'm gonna back up a little bit because for people who aren't watching, who are maybe listening and didn't get to even see that, I'll drop a link to their website. Immediately when you go to their website, it'll hit you what we're talking about. But Tommy, would you mind giving the listeners a little bit more of like an audio version of just like what is Final Boss Sour? Obviously, we've hit on that it's a sour candy head product with real fruit. But can you kind of back up a little bit? Because I think for me, I know the first time I came across the brand was you posted something on LinkedIn, but then I went to the website and it's like you just dive deep into what you guys are trying to achieve. But for someone who's listening, they might not pick that up right away. So can you guys kind of can you just give a little bit more of a background into what the product is and what you guys are trying to achieve with the brand?
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, so Final Boss is basically a gaming themed, healthier sour snack, right? We're not necessarily candy because we're not, a gummy or corn syrup base. We use real dried fruit, whole dried fruits as the base. And we basically brutalize those fruits with our naturally blended proprietary sour acids, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah.
Which offer this sort of deeper, complex sour taste because you're utilizing like the fruits like cranberries, for example. They already kind of are sour by themselves. So when we, infuse them with acids, it offers this kind of multi-dimensional flavor. Whereas like a gummy is, kind of lab driven. It has a lot of negatives surrounding it. We try to just keep it as simple as possible. And we've kind of, like basically disrupted the norm in the sour space. Most sour candy is full of sugar and artificial colors and, all kinds of chemicals. And we have no artificial ingredients, high on antioxidants. And then we also are really sour. Like I think a handful of our level 3s like compete, if not outperform, some of the most sour things that have ever been made. So
really? Okay. I'm so excited to dive into this because, obviously I've done some research for this episode and I had so many questions along those lines. When you guys set out to do this though, Tommy, like did either of you have a background in food science or anything related to food? Like how'd you guys even come up with the concept besides wanting a healthier sour candy?
Yeah, I mean that was part of what I mentioned earlier when we were discussing like what should the base be of, we know how to make it sour. It's citric acid, malic acid, tartaric acid, right? So we're like, okay, we know that that's how we'll get them sour. What do we want as the base, right? We didn't want to go the gummy route. We feel like it's overdone. There was a lot of negatives around like basically doing this in a lab, coming up with like a
okay. Sure.
So we were like, well, let's use dried fruit because one, it offers just pretty much endless possibilities of flavor combinations, right? Like we have about, 4 or 5 kind of evergreen SKUs right now that evergreen fruits that are available on our website to buy. But every month we do a limited drop at the end of every month, which our fans absolutely love. They sell out in, a matter of a couple days. And those are crazy combinations. Like we've done sour pina colada, which was like mango, pineapple, coconut, but sour. It tastes literally exactly like a pina colada.
Wow. Okay.
We've done, chocolate covered sour cherries before. So our take on sweet, which is like a really complex flavor. It's almost kind of reminds you of like eating like a salted chocolate chip cookie when you can really taste like the salt element to it. But that combined with sour nature and then, the cherry being in there is really crazy flavor.
And so do you guys have a team that's helping you kind of come up with some of these? Because again,
I know you asked
you know me a little bit. Like I'm such a noob when it comes to understanding like food science. Like I always love to try to learn, but it's so over my head sometimes. Like how are you guys even coming up? How are you doing this?
Yeah, I mean, our manufacturer assists a little bit, but I would say like we test the product on ourselves first before we even ask our manufacturer to do a pilot.
Okay, sure.
And so we're really close to each product and each drop, and we have probably about the next 6 months of drops kind of already pre-planned.
Wow.
We dropped something 3 days ago or 4 days ago called Frankenstein food.
Yeah, I saw that.
That one's really interesting because we're essentially getting Gen Zs to eat prunes, right? No one would ever eat prunes. And so I've already.
Isn't that funny? I even have like a whole thing against it. Like I don't know why, but when you said that, I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. You know what I mean? Just because I'm the same way. I don't know why.
Yeah, so it was a big debate internally if we wanted to do that. But when we tried them, we were like shocked at how good it was when you make them sour. We combine it in sort of a medley of, it has cherries, apricots, kiwi, and prunes together. And like when you eat a handful of those sour together, it's crazy experience. It's pretty much like nothing I've ever tried before.
So cool, man. And it's cool. So, everyone listening, like down here on my other screen, just so you know, Tommy, I'm looking at your website, and the way you guys have it laid out is so interesting because you literally push consumers into, it literally feels like you're about to play a video game, and you have to pick your sour level 1, level 2, level 3. Is the goal there, Tommy, over time? Like, do you guys envision going, level 4, level 5, or is the 3 levels kind of what it can be and you can expand? I'm just so curious on like where this is going as a new consumer. Most people start at level 1 and then work their way up, and it really does turn into a game.
Camera's probably flipped, but this is our VIP.
Oh, yeah.
We've sold, probably 40,000 of these in the last few months. And right here, it sort of gamifies the whole thing. So you kind of work your way up. These are the fruits you pick. This is what level. And then in this box, it's coupled with the characters that you see on this grid here. Level 4 and the final boss are what comes after. We have dropped a limited level 4 flavor 2 or 3 times now. And it was our fastest selling drop ever at the time.
Whoa.
It's crazy sour.
So I can only imagine. So final boss though, like the name of the brand and on that image you just showed, is that like long term? Like, do you guys have a plan that when that would come out, or is that kind of,
I don't know?
Is that like the end game for the whole company? Yeah. Man, what a cliffhanger! I've never talked to someone who has such a build up like this. What a cool idea.
Yeah, I mean, so we haven't talked about the name very much, but how we got the name, right? As we've gamified this whole thing, we thought like, all right, what's the most epic part of any video game? It's when you get to the end of the level and you get to fight the final boss, right?
Right, of course.
So there it was.
What's so wild about this, Tommy, is this is the first company, like I've talked to 250 brands myself on here, and I don't think I've ever come up with or talked to anyone who's got a product that has such a deep, bigger picture that goes with it like this, like a video game concept where you're building up. You guys must have had conversations early on, like you're coming up with a name, you're thinking of this concept. It would have been so much easier probably to just go and create like a better for you candy with a whatever name brand, and you just leaned on the benefits of eating fruit over shitty gummies, right? But again, not to shit on them, but like Smart Sweets, right? Like Smart Sweets basically, I'm going to be the healthier version of unhealthy candy, like a lot of brands do in these categories. This is such a left field idea, which I love. Did you guys really ponder this for a long time? Because to me, this is such a different way of going about getting a consumer base transparently from anyone I've really talked to.
It all started with level 1 cranberries. It was the first SKU we launched. Level 1, like baseline, and cranberries was the first fruit we experimented around with. And as soon as we got the first mock-up, that's when we had this aha moment that, when we gave, a couple thousand of these out to people just to get feedback, people were like, I need to try level 2. I need to try level 3. Have you tried other fruits? Like the feedback was insane. People were so loud about it and passionate about like what this actually is. They're like, there's just cranberries in here? Like, that's it? And like, and people started using them certain ways. People were like, I eat these before the gym now, like all the time. Like, this is how my
Oh,
new
wow.
pre-workout, or I put them in the fridge or the freezer. I love these at my desk. And then it kind of led us to making the next level and the next one and the next fruit. Kind of just went from there.
Wild. Yeah, I mean, what a wild thing. When you launched level 1, did you have a lot of consumers that reached out that were curious how this was all going to work? Like, I guess the first time I stumbled across it, I stopped and like I really spent some time going through the website and like what's level 1, what's level 2, what's level 3. At first, was it something you had really explained to a lot of consumers, or most consumers kind of gravitate towards it and they just kind of understand?
No,
what
they
this was
understand the
about?
levels right away. That wasn't really a learning curve at all. I think the only learning curve is people think they're gummies, or even like we've heard people think they look like edibles, like they think like this is like weed.
Yeah, for
Which is
sure.
kind of
You can see
funny. It's
that.
almost liquid death-ish, where people are like,
Yeah.
what is this? Oh, it's actually just water. We're like, it's actually just fruit.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. I could see that. I could totally see how people could think this is a weed gummy pack for sure. So you launched on the website. Did you launch anywhere else, Tommy? Was it just D2C?
Yeah, we were D2C for like the first 2-3 months, and then we wanted to be able to get product faster to customers that wanted it faster, and Amazon we knew would be a good channel, so we launched on Amazon as well a couple months later, and now today we're on those 2 channels and TikTok Shop.
Nice. TikTok Shop is arguably, I think we fast forward 2-3 years, I think it'll be one of the most important channels for new brands. Just that's my belief, especially with how much it ties into Amazon. And I think as Amazon and them start to really intermingle and make it really easy, they're already so close. I know some people that have been telling me inklings of the whole collaboration where you're gonna be able to swipe up and get 2-day Prime free shipping really close. Like that's coming sooner than we probably all think. What's that been like for you guys? I've had a few people on here who have had really strong TikTok businesses, but I feel like most people they're so confused by it and don't know how to even get it set up. You can get it running. What's the experience been like for you guys just getting up and running on TikTok?
Yeah, I mean, we were one of the earlier brands that at least that I've spoken to, and obviously, like I mentioned earlier, like I met with 200 brands over the last year, and I'd say over half of them are either not on the platform yet or are just getting on. And then, another 25% of those are on the platform and aren't seeing any success. It's hard. There's a cold start problem when you get going. It's competitive, it's expensive, right? You're giving out a lot of product samples to affiliates. There's a lot of little tiny things you have to follow, rules you have to follow of TikTok. They have really specific guidelines. And if your shop health score is not great, your fulfillment score is not great, you're pretty much screwed.
Okay.
So
Okay.
you have to play their game a little bit to get it going. And once it's going, you have to keep your foot on the gas. Because if you lose the momentum, or if you stock out, that was a huge thing for us. So we first saw success on TikTok in April this year, 6 months ago. And we were doing at the time maybe $1,000 a day in revenue when we first kind of got on the platform. So it wasn't nothing. And then literally a week later, after we hired an agency that we still work with today, we were doing 10-15K a day, like in a week. So it went like crazy, and we stocked out. Like we were in like a few days, we were like, oh boy, like this is not stopping. We're calling our packaging partners, like, you guys have to help us. We don't want to lose this momentum, because as soon as you market sold out, it's done. So it goes to zero. Start all the way over. So it took us a month or 2 to catch back up. And since then, it's became a critical part of our business, right? TikTok is now one of our main channels. It's a sales engine, but it's also a really good marketing funnel. We're getting millions of impressions a week, organic impressions a week, and millions of product card visits. So people clicking on our actual product and seeing, what and reading into it or making a purchase. People adding it to their carts, keeping it in their carts. So all those things. And yeah, I mean, to date, we're hovering right around 20 or 25 in the food and beverage rankings for TikTok Shop as a whole.
Wow.
We've peaked
Congrats, man.
Thank you. We've peaked at number 8, and we were in May or July, I think. We were the second fastest growing food and beverage brand.
Wow. Hell yeah. Congratulations. So what's so interesting to me about it, and I think this took me a little while to understand. It seems like, and correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like a lot of the success on TikTok, you hit on the key ones. So it's a lot of brands who have figured out affiliates or influencers for people who don't know what affiliates means. Basically finding some influencers that you can work with. And if you guys have you done most of that off of TikTok, directly trying to interact with influencers and creating like a one-to-one connection? Or are you using, I think it's called creator connections within TikTok? What have you guys kind of done from that
Yeah,
standpoint
I
to
mean,
work with
we get a
people on
lot
the
of
platform?
creators reaching out to us now, especially just because, a lot of affiliates have sold lots of products with us and been successful. So,
Sure.
there's a domino effect there. In the early days when we were trying to find the right ones, I think our product's so different and new that like affiliates were really receptive to wanting to try and work with us because also the product's like fun to talk about, right? It's kind
Yeah.
of a game, like it's easy to make content with. You're like, I'm gonna try level 2 now. I'm gonna try level 3
Yeah.
now. So um, that's been an advantage of the way we've structured the brand and the product.
That is so cool. That you guys, I mean, good. First of all, hands up for you guys. That's huge. That you guys are able to already crack into that, because I think I've been trying to really dig into TikTok and try to understand it over the last few months, and I do get this sense the more time I spend with it that it's what Amazon was, even in the mid to late teens, where there's momentum and everyone knows it's something important, but just not everyone's into it yet. And I think if you fast forward 2 3 years, every single brand, this will be like a big part of their organization. And I think the brands that kind of like sat around and waited this year in 2024, I think in 2025 they're like, shit. We should have probably started doing more last year. I think it's gonna be even tougher next year
Well, I think
probably.
Meta will follow suit. They already have a version of the shop, but I think it'll really lean into that. Amazon is really TikTok's biggest competitor, although Amazon doesn't
Yeah,
have a lot of the same infrastructure as TikTok. And then there's the
right.
partnership.
I know. I wish I could bet on it somehow. This is total rumor. It's just for the record. A lot of rumors, a lot of things I've been reading that Amazon might be the one that tries to acquire TikTok, which would be crazy. Like what a wild. If you think about funnels into sales, for D2C and what Google and Meta have been for top of funnel for a lot of D2C brands, if TikTok can be the top of funnel for Amazon, holy shit, that'd be
Crazy.
nuts. You think about just like the combination of the 2.
Mhm.
Okay, so those are the 3 pillar approach really to sales. For you guys, where you're at, obviously this is still super new, but it sounds like, Tommy, like the amount of leverage and success you guys have already seen goes to show that this could be a much bigger, wider brand. Do you envision this turning into a brand that is sold at Walmart, at Target, and hits a whole different demographic of consumers? Where do you guys see the brand going outside of the channels you're in today?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what we've been able to do is gather customer feedback, right? Because our product's so different and, no one's really played in this space before with the combination of dried fruit and sour the way we have. Before we got into retail, which is where 80% of sour candy is sold, by the way. So if we're
Oh,
able
wow,
to,
is it really 80%?
yeah, like 75%, something like that. But we want to experience as much success as we can digitally, and then have more leverage when we talk to Walmart and Target, who we've been talking to big retailers already.
Mm-hmm.
So it's on the horizon. We're being patient with it. We want to make sure we're going to retail the right way. A lot of brands burn in retail, so we want to be cautious, but we are excited to hopefully get in there soon.
No, that makes, you guys are thinking about it the right way. That's great. It's cool. It's probably a huge value add and leg up that you have also of working in venture before, because I'm sure you've seen that playbook not work so many times, and you probably know exactly what happened, which is a cool thing. Like for me, the experience I have with RX Bar, like the retail whole journey and story is just, it's one of one. So it's like I'm sure there's things that happen to us that it's part of my experience, but it's not necessarily the only way it can go well or not well. But for you having this venture back, you I'm sure you've seen just a ton of different iterations of the same story, which is a spiral out story. So good for you guys. One question I always love to ask that I kind of skipped over, but I'm just genuinely curious. For people listening to this, Tommy, that maybe they have an idea and they want to jump and create their own thing. This is going to be a springboard for them. When you guys thought about starting it, did you guys, from a investment perspective, did you guys decide to put your own money in and bootstrap it? Did you think about raising capital, given your background in venture? Like, how did you guys think about structuring the business, and then ultimately, what was kind of the path forward that you guys aligned to run with?
Yeah, I mean, we were scrappy as hell when we got started. Exactly what you said, the classic bootstrap situation. Starting with a pallet of cranberries and one single SKU in a commercial kitchen in downtown LA. Like we were as scrappy as it could possibly get, right?
I love that.
And just once we had some success in month one, from there we were able to raise venture dollars and reinvest it into the business and go from there.
Yeah. And for you, was there a specific reason you wouldn't want to just keep bootstrapping it? Did venture solve something for you that you knew from your experience would be a leg up to moving faster with more capital? Like, I'm just curious for people who are listening. I think that's always a big
Yeah.
question of, you hear all these stories of people trying to bootstrap or raise capital, and we just love why you decided to raise capital when you did.
No, it's a great question. And if you don't have to raise capital, don't raise capital, right? There's different situations for everybody. We really wanted to hit the gas hard once we realized we had something, and we needed some funding to do that. I see all kinds of startups today having different paths on their raising cycles. I see bootstrapped, I see seed strapped, which is like you raise a seed round and then never raise again, which
Well, I've never heard of that
ideal
term.
for
That's
founder
interesting.
equity purposes, but
Sure.
businesses have different needs based on where their expenses lie, burn, etc. And for us, we raised the seed round, which we just announced yesterday. That should last us to the end of next year at this pace, barring any outside events that could happen. So
Yeah, congratulations on that. That's exciting.
thank you, man.
Yeah. No, that makes a ton of sense. I think you guys are going about it. It sounds like, obviously, we've been talking here for a little over half an hour. It sounds like you're going at a very methodical but fast pace. Like, you guys are. Would you describe your guys' strategies as like move fast, learn quick, pivot? Is that? It seems like you guys are doing that at a pace. I mean, you've only been a business for what, a year at this point?
Yeah, we're literally about to have our birthday, our final boss birthday.
Final boss birthday. I love that. Well, yeah, but I mean, that you guys have achieved a lot in a year, right? I would argue even, the D2C growth, what you're saying you've done on TikTok and Amazon, raising a seed round, validating that this product can work and scale, even the rankings on TikTok. I mean, that's crazy, man. So congratulations. That's not something that's easy to achieve.
Appreciate it.
But what does it look like, you think, for year two? I mean, year one probably feels like a blur. I feel like it probably flew by. What are some of the things you guys are hoping to do here in the second year?
Yeah, I think the short answer is, this has been a main hero SKU of ours, which is our VIP sampler pack. We have a new form factor right here called our mango dippers, which is kind of our play on fun dip. So you take these mango strips and you dip it into our naturally flavored sour powder, blue raspberry flavored, and it's been so well received. People love them. In my opinion, it's way cooler than fun dip. It's way healthier than fun dip too.
I haven't had a fun dip in so long. What a reminiscent thing to drop. I didn't realize you guys had these, so now I'm looking. Wow.
Yeah, so we have a line.
So it's what the powder is, like, healthier. It's like it's obviously not just like the sugar coated shit that fun dip is.
No, it's naturally flavored. It's our blend of sour acids with like blue raspberry natural flavor.
Wow. Okay. I mean, I feel like that could be just as big of a business as the first product you launched.
Yeah. So like I mentioned earlier, we experiment around with our monthly drops at the end of every month, right? It's a great way to, get really fun products into the hands of our fans and our customers and get feedback on what people beg us to bring back permanently, right? So we have these two that I just showed you and strawberry mango as, probably three of our main hero SKUs right now. And the goal for the business for year two, to answer your question, let's find more of those. We have a crazy one dropping November 21st that I think.
Okay. Ooh, tease here. Love that.
So that one, I can't spoil it, but it's very different. It's nothing like we've ever made.
Tommy, this must be exciting for you too, not to cut in, but just to know, like, every month that you have something planned that's exciting. What a cool, because like when I was at our expo, when we'd launch a new flavor or a new product, it took a long time usually, and we all knew it was coming, but to know something every month is about to be exciting that you're going to drop, what a fun piece of the business.
It's stressful. As a business owner, it's very stressful to launch a new product every month. And most products
and expensive probably, right?
And they're too expensive. Yeah. So, we're lucky to be in this type of space where we can hustle and do things each month.
Yeah. So it's going to be finding new winners, testing more.
Finding new winners, developing, really really strong repeat numbers. The repeat's been great. We're making improvements to the product, always listening to customer feedback, and really I'd say like ironing out the content machine, like never having content be a bottleneck, just being able to push content nonstop. It's the name of the game. That's online distribution right there. So the more organic content we have going viral, is really vital to the business for year 2.
Got it. And for most social channels, Tommy, do you have influencers that are pushing most of the sales, or do you guys also create a lot of your own like branded content from Final Boss Sour's own TikTok that drives sales? Like, where do you think the split is, if you had to guess, we might know?
On TikTok specifically, most of our success has came from affiliates, posting their own videos with our product. On D2C and Amazon a little bit, it's all been driven from our organic content that our creator London Lazarson makes. Shout out London.
Nice. Okay.
He has a crazy artistic vision for a lot of these videos that he makes with our team and James and the rest of the team, some of which have gone completely viral on YouTube Shorts and Instagram. You should look it up when we hop off. But
yeah,
we're the most followed sour candy brand on YouTube.
Are you really?
Yeah, like around 250,000 followers. And some of the videos we do are pretty wild. Like they're definitely like pushing, like they're very edgy. They're pushing the edge on a lot of what you would normally see out of a candy brand.
Okay.
And I'll give you an example.
I'm excited to watch this.
I'll give you an example of one. So like for one of our drops, it's like a grandpa in an open casket, and it's like a couple kids and like the mom like at the funeral, right? And one of the kids like looks at the grandpa and the grandpa's like kind of mouth's a little open, and he like takes a packet of Final Boss and like dumps it into the grandpa's mouth, and like all of a sudden the grandpa like starts twitching, comes to life, and then like scares the shit out of everybody. And the mom like punches the grandpa back in the face, and then he goes back to sleep. And the kid's face is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Wow.
So that video got, I think, a total of like 20 million views.
Shit. Oh yeah, these aren't like a couple hundred, a couple thousand. These are like actually legitimately viral videos.
Yeah, I mean, we've probably had 5 videos like that get over 1 million on Instagram, and like,
whoa,
we had an arcade video got 30 million views, I think.
Damn, Tommy. Oh shit. Okay, I didn't realize that. When you guys have a video go viral to that degree, does it usually correlate to a sales bump for you guys?
Yeah, we'll run ads on the video or mash up different versions, different clips. It's great for top of funnel. People then explore on our site and maybe visit again on another ad or get into our funnel on a lower funnel type of clip. But yeah, it's really just about entertaining our fans through like nostalgia and humor. And like a lot of the concepts we have are, kind of pivoting off of other ideas that were like people took too seriously that we kind of just laugh at. And like our writers are hilarious when we come up with these concepts.
I was gonna say, it sounds like you guys get together like an SNL cast gets together and just comes up with crazy ideas almost.
It's fun, man. It's very fun.
I bet. I was gonna say, what a cool thing to do. Well, what's interesting is I had a founder on here not long ago, and we got into this conversation of we were like, why are consumers following like food product brands on Instagram and TikTok?
Yeah.
And what you just said is such a good, I mean, you guys have spun it to be a great reason to follow, which is you have entertaining content. And I think that's probably where a lot of brands really fail when it comes to social media, is they're just posting pictures of their shit. Like they're just posting pictures of someone holding whatever it is that they're selling. And they're not thinking about it in a broader, bigger, like you guys are entertaining.
We rarely show the fruit. We rarely show the product on our Instagram.
Which is what a wild, it's not like rocket science to think of it that way, but what an ingenious thing to come up with, because you do stand out when it comes to the typical food and beverage brand on the type of content. What a good idea, man. That's awesome. I can't wait to dive into all that. It's funny too, you threw out YouTube Shorts. I think that's the other struggle too for probably a lot of brands. It sounds like you guys have built a team that's helping with content, which in my opinion, if I were to start a food or beverage brand, I think that'd be one of my first hires, is someone to help with content. That to me, I've always thought is probably where you'd want to put money behind. There's so many platforms now. Like if you just make one piece of content and you got to repurpose it for YouTube Shorts, for Instagram, or even Instagram Reels,
horizontal, right? Like,
dude, it's tons. Yeah, it's tons. Like, so I have a lot of empathy for brands anyway, just because creating anything from a content perspective, it just takes a ton of work. So is that somewhere you guys invested early, it sounds like? Or was it just you and your co-founder first?
It totally was. And, any other brand, that I launched down the road it's definitely probably the first step, like you mentioned.
Okay. Yeah.
Building
I feel
that
like building content that's similar to what you're talking about, which has a theme. And then have you guys done much of like following you two and the team around as you build it? That's another one that I always think if more brands would do that, I know it's a hard thing to do, but like almost having someone like kind of videographer, kind of the vlogging of what 10 years ago was. That's content too that I think a lot of people, yeah, just like follow along with like all the good and the bad. I think that stuff that's another good reason people want to follow brands, I think.
Yeah.
I feel like that got like really hyped up a couple years ago, and it's kind of calmed down again, where I don't see quite as much of it. But I mean, even hearing this, I'm sure you guys have so much day to day that would be fun to watch and pay attention to.
We have data just from being in VC too, like on which types of brands perform really well in their organic content on TikTok, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Two of the main commonalities we found are, in one case, it's either a creator that has a brand, like they are a creator, they have their own platform, and they launched a brand, and they're both huge. Both have huge followings, and that's the connect there. Or it's just the brand, and the founder story is like the whole content pillar. He or she is just speaking. It's kind of like Midday Squares a little bit, where they those three show a lot of the good and the bad of what comes from building a business. And I love their content. I think it's great. And
it's great.
A lot of people saw it.
Got it. That's so cool, man. Good for you guys. So you guys, obviously, like I said, you're selling in 3 channels. 2025 seems like it's poised to be not only product innovation, but potentially innovation outside of what you actually are selling today, but also potentially channels you're selling in. What about the team? I mean, we just kind of hit on that a little bit around content. Do you guys envision, the team growing next year? Other big things like internally? What's going on behind the scenes today at Final Boss Hour, the conversations you're having to get you to the growth numbers you want to get in 2025, just so people can understand like what it's like to be in your brain as you guys are growing this business out on a rocket ship?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. Operationally speaking, we hired an operations manager. Shout out Savannah. She's doing a great job. And from an output perspective, our manufacturer will be switching to roll stock soon, which will allow us to pump out probably 10 times faster the amount of product we want to.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
That's huge. From a growth standpoint, getting more eyeballs on our product the right way. So partnering with the right influencers or the right partnerships, that's definitely a key objective for us. And then, like we mentioned earlier, it's finding more winners product wise, more products that people can subscribe to and become lifetime customers for.
Got it. Yeah. Okay. That sounds, I mean, it's a lot on your plate. I can see there's a lot to figure out. Is the operation side and unlocking more throughput and, be able to push through more product. Is that a pretty complicated piece? And it's something I'm probably a little bit removed from in a lot of the work I do. But going from where you are to like an improved process, I've always assumed that is such a huge undertaking that most people that aren't involved in a startup probably have no clue how much goes into that. Is that fair to say for people who are listening?
Yeah, and I think a lot of businesses experience like an inflection point where they break into like what I call really good margin and like really good efficiency and output overall. And it's kind of hard to predict when that happens. It might happen in month 6. It might happen in year 6. And it really just depends on what it is. In the beverage industry, for example, like you have to be doing crazy volume to switch to printed cans rather than have a label can.
Right.
So in our case, in these pouches, for example, you can buy these in small quantities, but if you buy them, where they're pre-formed, it's manual. You're gonna have to fill these up by hand or through a tube, right? To switch to roll stock, you need a much bigger line, a bigger capacity, the right machine and equipment to do it. So if your co-manufacturer doesn't have it, you're kind of screwed. You're rocking with manual, which is what we were doing in the early days.
Yeah, filling each one individually. Got it. Okay. Yeah, and for you guys is sticking with co-man, is that for the foreseeable future? Because the other thing that I just, being a numbers guy, I'm always curious of is co-man versus trying to actually produce your own product and create your own manufacturing. Obviously, huge capital investment to even think about doing something like that. Have you taken an approach on that?
We love our co-man. We don't have any plans to move away from them. Hopefully we can work with them forever.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it has benefits. I know we keep touching on Midday Squares. I know they had a really interesting situation because they were manufacturing chocolate bars a way that I don't think anyone was doing
I
with
think so. Yeah.
flavors.
Yeah.
So they
Right.
had a lot of learnings there. Probably a lot of failures till they got it right.
Sure.
They realized they needed to build it themselves. You know, for us, we don't have to do it ourselves right now. We might get to that point, but we like who we're working with right now.
I love that. And I think if you can stick with somebody for the long haul, that's a huge win for a business and potentially an acquirer. I know in our X Bar, we loved who we worked with too. And I know we ended up working with them. I think they still are. So it can definitely be a huge, like a great partnership that can go on for a very long time. I do feel like it's kind of a misconception that you can't, do that with a partner that's like a co-man. So that's good. That's great to hear. Tommy, as we get to the top of the hour, some of the things I always love to ask every founder that comes on here, because I think it's interesting for folks to hear the different perspectives you have. The first one being source of knowledge. So just be curious, if there's a book you've read recently, a podcast, just anything that pops out in your brain right now that you think would be interesting for the listeners today that has changed the way you've thought about something, or you think that is worth sharing.
There's not like a book or a podcast that comes to mind. I'm on Twitter a lot, and like I follow a lot of people on Twitter that I like. Some of the most engaging content that I watch is, and I'm biased here, of course, but it's from Science Inc., the venture capital studio that I worked for.
Cool.
CEO Mike Jones. I love the content he's been making. Mike was
on Twitter specifically.
I know it's on his LinkedIn and Instagram. I don't know if he's been posting on Twitter. I assume he has, but anyways, Mike was formerly the CEO of MySpace at the end.
Oh, wow.
Through the acquisition. And after that, launched Science Inc., Fund One. They found Dollar Shave Club. They incubated Dollar Shave Club all the way through the exit. They participated in every fundraising round through the exit.
Oh, wow.
Since then, they've raised 2 more funds, and a major winner right now for us is Liquid Death. Right. So Mike has seen it all, and his content really hits home. And like, not even just if you're a CPG founder, but if you're just in the venture capital world, or you're just interested in like what it takes to build a successful business and see it through.
That's awesome. I feel like I need to go through my Twitter and clean it up. I feel like I have so many people I follow that I've just like, it's one of those platforms for me where I've been on Twitter for so long. Like I think I got on there in high school. So there's a lot of noise. I need to go through there and clean it up and follow people like that. My favorite question, Tommy, is tools. So you as a founder, a million things on your plate. What do you use to map out long-term goals, yearly goals, all the way down to just the shit you got to get done today that's a priority? Are you a pen and paper guy? Do you have a planner? Do you use apps? Like what do you surround yourself with to prioritize and get shit done?
Yeah, we had this conversation internally the other day. We were like, should we start using like a project management software, like just because we have all this, cross-functional responsibilities across teams. And we don't have that big of a team. We have between 5 and 10 people. But no, we're still scrappy, man. And I think one of the advantages we have is that we are scrappy and we hustle and we're all organized our own way. I still use the Notes app on my Mac. I love it.
I love the Notes app, actually.
Yeah. And like I get criticized all the time for it, but I'm
haters.
Totally happy with it.
The Notes app is probably, I think, the most underutilized like tech app out there. I'm with you, dude. How do you use it?
I like jot down certain things that I'm hearing. Similar to like Post-it notes or a notepad, like you mentioned, or like if I know I need to do something at a certain time, I'll just put it on my calendar, like as an invite.
Yeah, the calendar invite one, that's a hack that I've used for a long time. You can't forget it if it's on your calendar and you're someone that always looks at the calendar. It's just inevitably you'll get to it. Are you a big goals guy? Like, do you have yearly goals, whether it's personal or for the business, that like you leverage your notes? Like, do you have goals that then like turn into, tasks that you're trying to hit in your notes app?
Yeah, I mean, in our office, like all of our walls you can write on them. They're whiteboarded. And so
love that.
We'll write like our big home run goals. So like, I think the little tasks, like we kind of know and track a different way. But yes, we are goal driven, and like we use a lot of sports analogies. So we swing for home runs every month too on certain things, but we know we still gotta hit singles and doubles and make our layups. but we still swing for the fences on big things.
Oh, I love that. Can you give us one example before we wrap it up? What would be like a home run type of swing that you guys are trying to take? Just to give us like an example of like how big are these swings we're swinging at?
So if it's a revenue driven goal, it's not like, oh, let's do, $1 million this month. It's like, let's land this partnership deal, which we know will lead to that. Or it's like, let's unlock a new channel, right? Like it's those types of things. Like when we first found out there was something there with TikTok, like we almost popped champagne, right? So because we realized what it did for the business, we unlocked a whole nother channel. So
right. Okay, got it. Love that. I mean, that's a great analogy, I think, to leave everyone with today, because I think no matter what step in the journey you are, if you're starting a business, making sure you constantly are taking those home run swings, I think, is a huge piece to long-term success. Awesome. Well, Tommy, thank you so much. If people want to learn more about Final Boss Sour, they want to try the product, they want to follow you, what are just the big ones to plug so that people can go find you and the brand?
Yeah, I mean, if you're trying to find product, Final Boss Sour is a great place to start. We have every product on there. Amazon, TikTok Shop, those are all pretty much the same to get product. If you're, you want to learn more about the brand and kind of be entertained by a lot of the nostalgia humor of the brand videos that we make. We launch about 3 or 4 of them, kind of longer form. We call them commercials every month. I would check out our Instagram or our YouTube.
Love it. I'm immediately after this going to go to YouTube and find this video you told me about. So I'm excited to see this in action. All right, Tommy. Well, thank you so much, man. Appreciate you taking the time. Great to get to know you and the brand a little more. And let's have you back on when we have some champagne to pop. It's something new I'm sure you guys will be launching. And now I have to mark my calendar for November 21st because now you get me all excited for what's coming.
Yeah, we have to do a taste test next time.
Yeah, I'm sorry that didn't happen today. Well, I can always do it. I can rerun it. I can add a little clip maybe at the end of the show when I actually post this, like everyone can see what it's like.
Nice. Well, thanks for having me, man. Appreciate all the questions. Been fun. Let's do it again.
Let's do it again, man. I appreciate it.